Hi, and welcome to the Happy PharmD podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Barker, founder of, this company. And what we're talking about today is a story about Tyler Brisso, a pharmacy student who took a chance, who made an opportunity happen, and has ultimately led to him getting a job. I think the lesson in this story is going to be very insightful for you because you're going to learn how Tyler got given this opportunity and what became of it. I think in all of our careers, we subtly see opportunities for us to create new positions for ourselves, but we don't take them. Or maybe we are taking them, but we're not clear about how to make that happen. Well, in this interview, I'm very excited to share with you a inspiring story of how a student, given the pandemic and given all these circumstances, had something really great happen to his career and how you can do the same thing too. Tyler, thanks for hanging out with us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So, Tyler, I found you randomly through my Google feed. I saw this story about a pharmacy student in Creighton, Nebraska, which I've never been to. I couldn't even point to Nebraska on a map of the United States. That's how bad at geography I am.
Yeah,
And
it's
it
okay.
said,
Most people can.
right. I didn't even know you were next to, is it Arkansas, right? Or you're just above Kansas, right?
Above Kansas, yep, next to Iowa, below South
Yeah.
Dakota. We're landlocked.
Is it right? Is it considered Midwest?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then we're brethren there, right? I'm in Michigan. And I saw this article about a pharmacy student who saved a Methodist hospital a ton of money. And I was like, what? That's weird and crazy. So, just to reveal the story, you were working on a project, and this ultimately led to you working on a new formulation for a drug, saving the company annually lots and lots of money and getting a job. But I'd love to start us in the beginning. How did this start? What was the origin story for Tyler's superhero pharmacy story?
So over the summer of 2021, I just finished my second year of pharmacy school, and pharmacy school curriculum requires their students to do 3 weeks worth of a inpatient or hospital experiential learning. So while on my experiential learning at this Methodist hospital, they tasked me with kind of doing some research about preventing pancreatitis following an ERCP procedure or endoscopic procedure. So at the time, I knew nothing about that, as most
Sure.
second year
Why would
pharmacy
anybody?
students.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I did some basic research, kind of familiarized myself with the procedure, with why pancreatitis is such a problem with it, and then some of the current and alternative therapies. And what I found is probably the most common therapies utilized are adequate hydration, which should always be employed, supportive care, and then along with that, they prophylactically will give an NSAID rectally, and in this case, indomethacin. And on the market, um, some of these formulations can be pretty expensive. So in doing some research, I was able to find, depending on the strength that they want to utilize, there's not an actual available product on the market. So that means that USP guidelines allows facilities to compound their own products when commercially available products are not on the market. So kind of formulated a design that we could use to make our own indomethacin suppositories.
So I think this is really interesting because in the workplace, there's always questions about processes, and there's questions from people on the front lines of, could we do it better? How can we do it better? And often people are so busy with the day to day that they don't have time to, let alone think about the problem and to find a solution. So they gave a student this project, right? When when they gave this to you, was this interesting to you? Were you curious about it? I mean, how did you approach it?
I was just excited to kind of feel utilized. A lot of times, students, kind of sit there, they take in information, and then you move on to the next um,
Yeah.
project or whatever you're doing. So when they asked me that they kind of wanted me to review some literature with this, I took it as an opportunity to try and make my work useful. Um, in our profession, um, we don't necessarily have the time privilege to be able to do a lot of these projects. So I think it's just important that students get some, um, a chance to provide their worth, because in just a short couple of years, these students are the same pharmacists that you're going to be seeing working retail and inpatient jobs. So I think they're very qualified to do plenty of research, whether that just be searching past literature that's available to the public or whatnot. And that's kind of what happened here. Is they just asked me to look into this project, and I used it as an opportunity to show my worth.
Uh, and that's really the heart of the story. Being given opportunities happens all the time, but many people don't take them when they're given. Um, you were really lucky to experience this, but it's happening every day in every workplace. Um, I you described how some students, sit in a corner, and that's literally one of my community rotations where I sat in a corner. I was told to read continuing education pieces about sunburns, and oh my gosh, was that like, it was boring, very boring. They wouldn't let me get on the line or help out or discover those kinds of things. But I think what this points to for every pharmacist listening is everyone knows that things would be better if this would happen. If we could just figure out a project that could do this, if we had the time where we could do this. And I think it really speaks to the quality of your manager who was able to give you a project like this. And what I think is even more amazing about it, as I realized this as you were telling your story, is that you've received your education through the pandemic, right? So
Yes,
you were a P1 when the pandemic
correct.
started. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. So, um, did that kind of fire you up as a P2 to like try to find whatever you could to like get opportunities and show your worth?
You know, Somewhat, yeah. I remember starting pharmacy school. I was really reinvigorated to get back into academics after just finishing up my 4-year undergrad. And come that January, February period, everything, you know, just went unhinged. We actually did remote learning for a while. It actually kind of sucked the wind out of um, just me and my pharmacy career. It's very hard to stay focused when you're sitting at home, having little interaction, pretty much just doing self readings or watching recorded lectures from previous years. And it wasn't until I was able to kind of get back in person that I really found, I guess, my place in academics. I really started to enjoy it again. The whole time I did actually have experience outside of school in the
Mm.
pharmacy world, but it
So
really, that
you
pandemic did kind of. suck it out of me. And I can say the same for a lot of students that went through that.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's a blessing that it happened at the beginning of
True.
your
Yes.
career, because those that had to do rotations during the beginning of that pandemic, I mean, some of them, the experiences they got are horror stories.
Yeah.
But going back to your experience with this rotation, you had this opportunity, and it just so happened to coincide with a job opening at Methodist, right? So did you apply to the job during, before, or after your rotation?
So I started on my rotation. During the rotation, I actually worked part-time at a different inpatient facility, so a different hospital, and part-time in a retail setting.
Mm,
Just 1 or 2 nights a week and maybe a weekend day. Um, I completed the rotation. I really liked the site. I loved the director, who was the one that gave me the project, and the entire staff just made me feel welcomed in at home. So uh, upon completion of the rotation, I kind of started looking. They had an opening. They had kind of talked to me about trying to recruit some other interns, and yeah, I decided that it would be a great fit for myself, actually. So I applied.
nice. I'm certain that the project is what, in at least a small part, as to how and why they offered you a job. Would you agree?
I definitely think they took note of the work I completed on the
Sure.
rotation. But I do think it was good timing as well.
Mm. So as a part of the job, it sounds like it was probably different than the project itself, right? The work that you're doing, or has it been tied to this project?
So the work that I'm doing now is pretty consistent with what you would expect any other pharmacy intern um, to experience. You do a lot of med histories for patients. It's very similar to tech roles, and then a little expanded upon with the intern status, that you get to do a lot more counseling,
Mm.
um, kind of triage some of the pharmacy operations.
So in terms of the project itself, has that you worked on as a rotation student,
Yes.
has that been handed off to a pharmacist or technicians, or what does that process look like?
So upon completion of the project, um, after it went through a couple different committees and the facilities decided that it was a great fit, um, it did get handed off to more of a technician role. So they will compound the suppositories
Mhm.
for use in the procedures. So, always under the supervision of a pharmacist.
Right.
I created, I would say, pretty easy to follow directions for it. And, you know, at this point, it's been going well for 2 years. Haven't really had any issues. So, yeah.
Well, there's not many pharmacy students that can brag that they've saved a hospital hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, pat on the back, man. Good job.
Thank you.
If it's not on your resume, it should be. But the sweet Cinderella story of it all is that, at least in the article, has been quoted to say that they provided you, or they gave you a job offer when you graduated, as you're still a P4 student now, correct?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So upon
Okay.
completion, in May is when we're slotted to graduate. They are talking with me about a job offering. So
Hey, did you expect that? Did you think that that would happen?
I didn't expect it from the project. I'd hoped that my work over the last couple of years would have been enough to at least impress somebody.
Mm,
Like I said, I really enjoy what I'm doing and where I'm at. And I can say that um, whether it's pharmacy, healthcare, whatever career it could be, that's not always the case. So I'm very blessed to be doing what I'm doing. But no, I did not expect this to come out of the project at all. I'm very happy with it, though.
I think it's a powerful lesson in being able to ask questions with good managers. Boy, I know that not every student gets this opportunity to work with an innovative leader or someone who can trust a student. But going back to my days as a clinical pharmacist, I think about all the different things that I wish could have changed. At the time, during the majority of my work, I did not have that kind of leader in place. I didn't have a manager who wanted that kind of thing. It was a little bit bittersweet for me leaving that position because the leader that I had when I quit was different and was very supportive for those kinds of projects and working with different teams. But I think with experience, especially for those pharmacists, because usually who listens to us as pharmacists who are looking for that kind of advancement, I think often the questions are right in front of your face. And it comes down to talking with a leader and a manager to open up those kinds of opportunities. So for you, Tyler, is this the kind of work that you're hoping to continue to do within the hospital, or are you looking to maybe something bigger, or what career aspirations do you have?
That's a great question. Completing 4 years of pharmacy school, I've gotten to see a lot of different sides of pharmacy. I think where my head's at right now, I really enjoy the clinical aspect. I like the patient interaction. What got me on this show was more of my effort in kind of doing some literature diving and research. And while I really enjoyed the opportunity, I don't know that that's where I want to base my career. I think more of a clinical role, working with patients is kind of what my goal is as of now. And what I've been told from a lot of great pharmacists is you may think you know exactly what you want to do today. Give it a couple months, it could change. Give it a couple years, it will change. So,
Yeah.
My head is open to a lot of different possibilities, and I'm excited to kind of see what happens after I graduate.
Well, it's great self-awareness you have because, I mean, if you know you worked on a project and you're like, it was great, but not what I love doing, then don't go in that direction. But it's certainly a great calling card for when you are looking for a new job, right? I mean, you could be working on a project in which you are educating patients, but maybe it's a research project, or maybe it's a new protocol and setting it up and practicing it. I mean, there's so many avenues in pharmacy for you to pursue. But it's good to know that we've got great people in clinical practice like yourself who soon be entering the field. Um, I think a part of this could be saying something like, well, if you want to be like Tyre, get lucky, right? Because this wasn't a question that you had, it was assigned to you, but you took it and you drove it into a great new direction. For those students that are out there, maybe like me, and are in those kind of positions where you're stuck in a corner, what advice would you like to give them, knowing what you know now?
Um, it happens to all of us. It's not like all of my rotations or all of my time in pharmacy has um, been what's got me a little bit of promotion. I've had plenty of time sitting beside a pharmacist or stuck in the corner doing readings. It's kind of just paying your due diligence. But I guess the biggest thing is when you get an opportunity, don't squander it. And sometimes that's hard to do because they don't come available as often as we would like, and sometimes they're difficult. You may not know a lot about the opportunity or the project that's been assigned to you. Like I couldn't have really told you a whole lot about endoscopic procedures. Our job's not diagnostic or anything. We're more of the treatment experts. So doing some digging outside of school was required. And, it's really just putting in that time and taking the chances that you're given.
I love talking with students because it's always refreshing to me to remember what it was like, the suffering that I went through, and the lessons that I've learned over my career. Um, what I love about Tyler's story is that yes, he was given this project by a manager, but I think there are so many things that happen in our workplace, so many questions and thoughts that we have about how things could be done differently. What could be done to improve the situation? How can we make this run better? And ultimately, that's how jobs get made. It's how they are created. Even for my own company, when I was thinking about expanding and growing the coach team, it led me to believe, you know what, I need help in sales and marketing. I need to get serious about this and I need people. And that's what I've been doing actually for the last few months is training more people to help me in growing this company. It's all about how we can make this better. There's plenty of opportunities in your role, in your job. You probably see things that you could be helping with, could be contributing to, and that can ultimately lead to promotions, more substantial negotiations for when you're talking with your manager, right? For pay increases for what you're contributing. Heck, one of our career coaches, I was talking with Eric Moody just a few weeks ago, and he was talking about how he had saved and made his company hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that led to him getting, a nice pay increase. I'm not going to say how much because this is a public forum, but you know what it is? These opportunities are all around us. But hey, maybe you don't know where to go next. Maybe you don't know even if the current job you're working is like, maybe you don't want to stay there. Maybe you want to see what else is out there. Well, I have a quiz for you. It is the what jobs are you qualified to do? By taking this quiz on our website, thehappypharmd.com, you can learn what pharmacy jobs you qualify for. And I don't want to spoil it. I kind of want to spoil it. I kind of want to tell you. But you'll have to go there yourself. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Happy PharmD. I really appreciate you, and I'm glad that you're here and listening. Thanks again.